Hi, everybody. Happy Pentecost. Hope you enjoyed celebrating Pentecost on Sunday. And that was the story I, of course, was talking about from Acts 2. So I hope you have a good time in your groups as you talk about it. The first thing I said from Acts 2, when it begins at the beginning of the passage, when the day of Pentecost came, they were all together in one place. The disciples had a wild 2 months. Jesus died around Passover, and then he rises again on the festival of first fruits. And 50 days later, in that 50 days, he's ascended to heaven. So they've had a wild 2 months, and they still commit to showing up for the festival, even though I'm sure they were very confused, and I'm sure they're a bit sad that Jesus wasn't physically with them. This festival they would have celebrated for a number of years together, but they still show up. And I think there's a powerful message for us there to commit to your community. The fact that you're watching this probably means you're committed to your small group, so great. But whatever your community is, often when we're feeling confused or low, we want to withdraw. But that's the time we need our community the most. So when you're feeling confused, when you're feeling down, try and commit to your community, try and show up, try and stick to being accountable to people, because it's in that community that so often we experience the fire. So they're sitting there all in one place, and then the fire falls. Now, as the fire falls in tongues and there's wind, this would have triggered memories for them from these kind of foundation stories that they would have been brought up being told about the foundation of the Israelite nation. So one of them would have been Moses at the burning bush, where Moses finds this bush that's burning and doesn't set alight. And they would have immediately made those connections. And the story is told in such a way to help us make those connections too. And for Moses, the fire brings freedom. For the people at Pentecost, they didn't need freedom from Egyptian slave drivers, but they did clearly need freedom from stuff in their mind. The fact that they were kind of hiding out in this upper room, this idea that they've withdrawn inside. Maybe you feel a bit bound by stuff in your mind that causes you to say no, causes you to shrink, causes you to hide, and the fire brings freedom. After Moses led the Israelites out of Egypt, then he goes up the mountain on Mount Sinai. But again, we read about fire coming and there's smoke, and God speaks from this, and they get the Ten Commandments. So, for the people of Pentecost, actually, there's a change that's happening. Instead of a law being etched into stone, we read in Hebrews about a law being written on their hearts, being etched in their minds. And I think the fire brings kind of a refinement. It kind of allows us to trust our instincts maybe a bit more, instead of endlessly consulting a manual. As we encounter the fire, as we encounter the Spirit, as we encounter the Spirit of Jesus, then I think that transforms our minds and our hearts. There's this refinement that happens that means that we don't have to keep apologizing at the start of every sentence, that we don't have to keep worrying about whether we must do this, we ought to do this, whether we're the wrong side of the laws or the rules. That there's something powerful about when we encounter the fire, that we have that in our hearts, in our minds. And the final one was when the temple is consecrated by King Solomon. And it says when Solomon's finished speaking, then the fire comes and it burns up all of the offerings, and the glory fills the temple so much that the priests can't even get in. An amazing story. And I think that story shows us a few things. And one of them is that when the fire came in the Old Testament, it was for a specific group of people, or a specific person for a specific task at a specific time. So it's Moses in order to lead them out of slavery, or it's for the priests in the temple. But we read in Pentecost, when the fire comes, the tongues separate and it falls on all of them. Maybe we're so used to reading that the impact doesn't chime with us anymore. But that was incredible foundational shifting bit of narrative. The fire falls on all of them. Doesn't matter if they were confused, doesn't matter if they were feeling down, they didn't have to have the right doctrine, they just were in the room, and the fire falls on all of them, as though God throws his hands up and he's like, fine, they can all have the fire. And as a result, the fire doesn't just fall on all of them, but they're sent outside and they start speaking to all these different people who've got backgrounds all over, who hear them in their own language. The fire blesses everybody. At Mount Sinai, the fire came down and it burnt stuff up, like people died on that day. In the temple, the fire came down and it burnt up the sacrifices. But at Pentecost, the fire comes down and instead of burning stuff up, it blesses everybody. To people at your workplace or in your family, are they blessed because you've encountered the fire? Have a good time as you chat about it. I hope you have a wonderful time, and do pray for each other as you reflect a bit on Pentecost. Bye.